Well, folks, Mercenaries is here, Hearthstone's latest game mode, much to the excitement of some and perhaps the disdain of many others. But I've actually been playing Mercenaries for a few days. Blizzard gave some of us content creators early access, and in particular, I've been focusing in on the PvP, trying out different characters and builds, and I wanted to showcase some of the builds I've enjoyed and found the most success with over the next couple days and quite a few videos. And in this video in particular, we're going to be playing a build that many people are calling BTX, and that is based on the names of Blademaster Samuro for the B, Thrall for the T, and Xyrella for the X, which many people have theory crafted as one of the best kind of opening salvos in Mercenaries, which I'll talk about in a little more detail shortly. This also just includes some kind of good character backups that have some cross synergies. Now, I will issue a warning. Apparently, the version of the game we're playing on here is not final. Some stats may be updated and changed, which could dramatically affect some of the specific combos that enable both this party and other builds I'll be talking about in future videos as well. So, use this as sort of a model or template to build towards, but be very mindful and careful. Don't just sink all your resources into this, because number one, it might change, and number two, as metas develop and form in Mercenaries, this may not actually end up being all that good. We're talking about a very limited sample of theory crafters and people actually playing this stuff. So, use this as an idea to spring forth from, but, don't hard commit to this. So real quickly, I want to run through each character's equipment and kind of the central focus for them. For Thrall here, we've got Doomhammer, which gives him +4 attack and Wind Fury, which means he's going to be pumping out lots of crazy damage. He's also going to be buffing Samuro via for the Horde, which is going to help increment Samuro's damage as well. Xyrella here has Radiant Wand, which empowers Blinding Luminance, which is a very powerful ability as far as I'm concerned. And if anything here gets nerfed between the time I'm recording this and the official release of the expansion, then it could be this ability right here. It's so fast at 3 speed, and it's got solid damage and an enormous debuff of -12 attack. And this is really what fuels this Thrall and Samuro opener, because essentially she's so fast that she can set people up for Samuro's first ability that demands somebody take damage, and also make them easy to attack because she's debuffing them, so there's not a lot of return damage on attacks either. Speaking of Samuro, let's skip over to him. This is Double Strike. It attacks an enemy. If it was damaged this turn, it gains 5 attack and attacks again. So he gets 2 attacks because Xyrella has pinged the opponent down with her 3-speed ability into this 4-speed ability. They're both very fast and set up this really powerful opening attack combo. You've also got Burning Blade here for Samuro, which buffs him when he attacks, and he's attacking multiple times to help stack those buffs. Uther here has Lightbringer, which is going to increase the damage here of Hammer of Justice and also increase the amount that it slows your opponents. This is Uther's main way to deal single target damage. Or if you have some holy combos with Xyrella, you can also blow people up with Avenging Wrath, but that's a little bit less consistent. For Lich King here, we've got Void Treads just to empower Death Coil. This is a great damage output card that also offers some survivability. Lich King can also be pretty disruptive with Frost Shield, because Freeze can really deny attack-based builds. And then finally, Tirion here's got some cool stuff. He starts with Divine Shield and some extra health, and he's got some cool buff effects if you're trying to enable things like Thrall's Wind Fury. Some great debuffs here with Judgment of Humility, setting attack values low, and just some optional upside here for extra divine shields if needed, kind of serving as a jack of all trades, just good stuff kind of character that also balances you out by having 2 fighters in your composition. Now, all that said, I think it'll really help to just see this in action as I break down each of these abilities and how all this stuff works together. So let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. All right, here we are, and let's take a look at our opponent's composition here. 3 protectors, 2 casters, and 1 fighter. So they're a little bit protector biased, so we may be a little better off with casters to naturally counter protectors. Again, blue is good versus red, red is good versus green, and green is good versus blue. That said, I think we'll stick to our standard opener. It's just so strong. Blademaster Samuro for B, Thrall for T, and Xyrella for X. Now, we're a little weak against protectors here, theoretically, because Samuro is one of our stronger characters. And wow, thankfully they opened with double caster. So Samuro is actually going to just be absolutely amazing here. And we're going to use his only option here to open, of course, which is double strike. That's going to attack an enemy. If that enemy is damaged, he's going to gain 5 attack and attack a second time. So we want somebody to damage his target before he gets his attack off. And that was a 4 speed ability. So we're going to use Xyrella's 3 speed ability here on Valen here to attack and deal damage to him first. Samuro's going to get to attack twice, which is insane. He will kill Prophet Velen in that scenario. Now you might say, why don't you use this on Lord Draxus? Because she's good at critting Lord Draxus. Because we care more about activating Samuro's double damage than we do about using this on the priority target. Now, Thrall in this case will not be needed here to target Velen, because it looks like Samuro will satisfy that kill minus any shenanigans or disruptions. So I'm going to go ahead and push Thrall over here to Baron Geddon to set up for next round, because don't really think we need to hit Jaraxxus just yet. So boom, dead. Thrall is dealing an insane damage output, even though he's not critting here, still just doing a million damage. And he did take some return hits and took 18 off those attacks, so that's a little bit scary. Thrall's low. That's okay though. Samuro's looking really strong already as a 24-84, so no problem there. Now, do note, of course, we can't see our opponent's abilities, what they're targeting in PvP, because they haven't selected them yet. We don't know. So you kind of have to have some understanding of what your opponent's abilities are going to be and try to predict those. Now, in this particular scenario, I don't know those yet. You probably won't either for the first time you're playing Mercenaries. It's a little bit unfortunate there's no hover that shows the abilities. You can see their equipment, but no actual abilities. So, you know, I think you just kind of have to use your own guidance and direction here a little bit for these early Mercenaries runs. But we don't need to reposition here. We can't. Oh, we're actually in combat now. We didn't need to reposition last time. So now let's go ahead and finish off this guy. We actually don't need the double attack for Samuro here. So there is some logic to using Xyrella on a separate target to enable Thrall. So we might actually just use the mirror image copy for Samuro here. And then I think we'll start hitting Jaraxxus, of course, because he's got lower health. We'll use Xyrella to debuff his attack so that Thrall takes less damage. Now, Thrall in this scenario may actually still be dying, depending on how much damage he takes and if he's acting fast enough. We just don't know. But Samuro copy there doing work. Jaraxxus debuff. Thrall does get to attack, which means he gets to cleanly kill that and still survives the attack against Gruul with 1 health remaining. That's fantastic. Okay, cool. So now we haven't even lost a character, and our opponent is putting in their final 2. So you can see also Samuro is just going to absolutely farm some dudes. He's very, very strong at this point. So now I think we should aim to finish off Gruul. I guess the question is, we don't really need, like, it's kind of a waste of damage in a way, right? Like, I want Thrall to attack Diablo, but I just don't know if he'll be fast enough. Diablo in particular has 6 speed abilities, so it's going to be a 50-50 on whether or not Thrall gets this attack off, and he doesn't have anything faster than 6. So he's a little bit weak there. We could try to heal Thrall to keep him alive, but I think that's just a little bit too risky. I guess, yeah, I guess we'll just have to kind of stick to the plan here, unfortunately, and just hope Thrall can connect. I mean, it's very unlikely at 1 health he survives any sort of AoE or anything or has time, but we might get lucky. We're kind of wasting the Samuro attack, but just not a great, like, the double attack is just not a great option for it, right? So could have honestly maybe gone immune with Samuro and still managed that, but it was lower speed, so there's still some risk there. So this is a little bit of a debate about who we want to place down here, right? Because like Uther's good against Cairn, but weak against Diablo. I think I just like Tirion, even though he's not a particular counter here. He's just a big meaty boy, and he can buff Samuro as well with his Blessing of Kings ability to make Samuro even more of a hoss than he already was, right? So we could go Blessing of Kings and Divine Shield on Samuro. Samuro is slowed from that previous round, but we can start melting some dudes. And we'll get Xyrella here since everybody's slowed actually except Tirion because he was on the bench. She's still going to be faster with Blinding Luminance into the Cairn. Still means we'll set up the double strike for lethals. And we don't need these other abilities. They're fine for now. Xyrella's first ability I think is just so OP that I just keep using it. So, oh man, that was a baller Diablo bump there, but thankfully unfazed are we because Samuro was still good enough to get lethal. And since Cairn attacked, he had already taken damage to proc Samuro's effect anyway. So all good in this case. Here, we can just kind of cruise, right? Just pump out some damage. We'll be totally fine. All of Diablo's abilities are 6 speed, so we know we have the luxury to attack first in this case. Boom. Yeah, so pretty good to finish with 3 mercs against our opponents, right? Like, not bad. All right, I hope I'm going slow enough to break down perhaps some of these unfamiliar abilities and synergies, but I don't know. You only have a limited amount of time, so I can't take forever to explain stuff, but hopefully slow enough to help. All right, next up here, we'll keep rolling. We got a little bit of a fighter-biased comp here, which makes Thrall just a powerhouse. But yeah, we'll stick to standard stuff here. And we may move Thrall to the left side for the next round of combat. If there's a lot of fighters down in particular, as indeed there are. Okay. So this makes our Xyrella really weak, right? We want to make sure we get some good Xyrella action. Here we got a Sylvanas, who actually is a character who very much relies on her attacks. I think we for sure want to focus on her with Xyrella's debuff here from Blinding Luminance. Remember, that's dealing 14 and subtracting 12 attacks. She's going to be both an easy target for our attacks here, but also less damaging in return. Now, we actually need to do a little bit of a calculation, right? This is dealing 14. That's going to leave Sylvanas at 52. And then Samuro is going to deal 12, which is just going to deal 12. So that's going to leave it at 40. And then he's also going to deal 17, 19, which is not a lethal on Sylvanas. So we actually do need Thrall to attack Sylvanas. And then hopefully his rollover attack rolls into Rathorian for the critical damage. We could just use Thrall here, and he would actually still kill Sylvanas because he would be dealing 30 into 40. That's 70 damage. If I wanted to instead push my damage from Samuro into Rathorian instead. But I think no, because I like the debuff here on Sylvanas. And Thrall's still going to get a second attack. So basically, just to deny Sylvanas any real value. I guess if she's dead anyway, maybe that doesn't make a difference. But Thrall's attacks are slow. So yeah, see, she's only doing 4 there to Xyrella, instead of a much scarier potential output. Because Xyrella is weak to these fighters. So yeah, I think I like that better, but could have gone a different direction there, right? I'm going to go ahead and move Thrall over now to use his third ability, War Chief's Command. Since it'll now be off cooldown, deal 12 damage to an enemy. Your leftmost character attacks it. So Rathorian's basically going to get murdered here. And I think we'll use Xyrella and Samuro probably against Varian Rin, depending on what comes down here. If maybe a caster comes down that Samuro can melt, we'll go that route instead. No, indeed, it's Uther. Okay. So here's War Chief's Command. This will just absolutely demolish and slaughter Rathorian. So let's go ahead and finish off. This is Varian. Yeah, finish off Varian here. And she's going to debuff him, which is great because we take less return damage. And she's dealing double damage to him because she's blue against red. As we know, that's awesome. Now, I think there's a really, really good chance Thrall will survive here. He's at 65 health. So he should just murder. Did take him the full 2 attacks still, though. That's kind of sad. I thought he might get a roll-off attack here. So my opponent, we know, is going to have a perfectly split comp next turn. I think we should probably do the same. Let's put Uther in here. We can get a taunt on Uther to maybe protect our fat boys here who are getting very, very beefy thanks to all these buffs they're applying to themselves and each other in Thrall's case. All right, so let's see. Thrall's really good against Uther. Now, we are going to buff the other team if I kill Thrall first, or excuse me, Uther first. But I think that's probably fine. I'm not that worried about that. We're just so far ahead with a full bench here. Let's just get Uther dead. And let's see. Are we going to deal any damage to Brucon first? Probably not, because I think I'm going to taunt here on the Uther. Yeah. We've got two characters who are... Well, actually, Jiraxis is more of a caster. He doesn't really attack that much. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the taunt's not even really that good. I think we'll just start pumping in crit damage as needed, which means for Samuro, we can use his copy in this case. Yeah, this should be fine. I don't think we're at risk of dying anywhere, really. Everybody's got pretty healthy totals. I guess if they really stacked into Thrall, we might have a bit of a headache, but for the most case, we'll be okay. Now, you can see like what happened here, right, is I theoretically could have maybe killed that Brucon with the Uther ability, given the timings of it, because Tirion didn't die until Brucon had already been attacked and Uther's damage had resolved. So I kind of favored crit damage over lethals, which I don't know. Actually, that may not be the best option. Maybe we should have prioritized the lethal here on Brucon instead of maximizing damage output. I guess it kind of depends on how long you think a round will last in one way or another. Let's just go Death Blow here. That should be dead. That's a slow ability, though, so that is kind of risky. Maybe we just go here and go here. I should show you what those abilities are. This is Judgment of Humility. This debuffs the Jiraxis and attacks it. We want the faster attack to kill the Brucon, right? So it has less likelihood to do anything to us. It probably is totally irrelevant, right? We're just looking like we're just running away with this fight, of course, because we're still 2 characters ahead in full, but essentially it should work just fine.
You further my torment.
Did not lethal Jiraxis, though. One more little round here to finish this off. Just doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. There's no advantage to having extra characters alive or anything at the end other than just shaming your opponent. So, and by the way, I should note, these are AI opponents mostly. We're in a really small pool for this early access event or whatever, so there's a chance we'll queue into a real person, but there's only like 10 people playing, you know, and they may not be playing right now. So I am stomping on AI opponents a little bit because Blizzard put some in there to facilitate us finding a queue. But still getting to showcase the builds. I'm certainly not claiming to be an expert or that this is perfect play or you should learn a lot from how I'm playing. This is obviously more of a high-level spotlight where we're just kind of taking a look at what's possible here for these compositions and hopefully increasing familiarity a little bit. And you know what? That said, I think we actually achieved that here with this composition. I think we got to see a lot of different things in action, got to take a look at each of the characters, certainly discussed some of the crazy damage outputs that are possible with these specific openers. Now, I'll remind you again, these are not necessarily the final stats for characters at the time of release, even though the game's out right now when you're watching this. I played it early on a previous build. So if you're going into this composition, of course, like take note in particular the speeds of Xyrella's ability here to see if she can open up Samuro attacks. That combination may go away. Also, you know, if like the attack debuff portion gets much weaker, then your characters might take more return damage when they're doing those double attacks. There's a couple key synergies here that really make this build possible. That said, if this retains its synergies and ordering effects, there's a lot of theory crafting that suggests this will be one of the better builds in early Mercenaries meta. Now, that may not last. This may be easily counterable. I've already seen people teasing, you know, this build is really good against BTX because you have all these taunts and disruptions and such. So keep that in mind. Nothing is guaranteed or promised, but if you get ahead of the curve enough, you might be able to get some easy wins with this build. I've also actually took this into PvE as well and just like cruise through a bunch of stuff. So this might be a decent option for PvE as well, since it's a rather balanced composition. That said, check the description for more details on this build. You need to copy down various characters. There's no like deck codes to copy that I can find. I did run through it here in the video, but also the description might be an easier way to copy that down when you're trying to recreate this build. That said, if you have any questions, let me know. Best of luck out there in Mercenaries. Stay tuned for more early build experimentation and spotlights. And thanks much for watching. And until next time, game on.